You're tuned in to The Local Lens, the podcast where we go inside our community's experience with the drug epidemic. Our show is coming to you from Stanton, Kentucky, a small town nestled at the foothills of Appalachia. The show is from the Powell County Health Department and Northeastern Kentucky Rio, so a big thanks to them for helping us put this show on. Our biggest goal of this show is to share perspectives around addiction, whether it's from professionals who are working to stop overdoses, whether it's first responders or people who have been in addiction before. There are nearly countless ways to look at addiction, and we are trying to find as many of those as possible. So in this week's episode, we are joined by one of the state's first peer support specialists. If you're familiar with our show, then you've definitely heard of peer support specialists before. This is a role where people use their lived experience where they have gone through addiction and are now in long-term recovery and are helping other people get into recovery. Our guest on this episode is James Oney. He is from Mountain Comprehensive Care, and he has been on an episode a little bit before on our Spark Recovery Rally episode. This guy has one of the best voices I have ever heard, and he has an incredible story to go along with it. We're going to be getting into some of the motives of somebody choosing to start going into recovery. And then we're going to be talking a lot about what he does now as a peer support specialist at Mountain Comp Care. Well, thank you all for tuning in. I hope you are sharing the show with some friends. If you think this is good information, then please be telling people about it. We appreciate that. Well, anyways, let's go on and get into the episode. I am your host, Nate Brooks, and you are listening to The Local Lens. These are our people using our voices, telling our stories, because no one sees it like we do.
My name is James Oney. I'd like to start out by thanking you for this great opportunity to be able to hopefully shed some light on addiction and recovery and Mountain Comp as well. It's also very grateful to be sitting here on my 42nd birthday.
Oh, happy birthday. Yeah.
And we'll get to that, and thinking back, 42 years ago, being born at Mary Child's, I'm pretty sure my parents didn't look at me and say one day he's going to be a worthless dope addict. The bottom of the bottom, and worthless, and lo and behold, that's where I ended up, and it wasn't because of my raising, anything like that. It was by my own stupidity and my own choices that led me down that path of addiction. And, and when I first started out and tried it for that first time, I've often wondered if would I changed anything.
Would you?
Honestly, no, because it has led me to be the man I am today and to be in the position I'm in today to help countless other addicts. I do work for Mountain Comprehensive Care. I'm their regional SUD peer support supervisor and outreach coordinator.
Okay.
That's a fancy title.
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, I'm just an addict in recovery trying to reach back and pull another addict out of the pits of hell.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know what it's like. I've been there, at the height of my addiction when I was actually arrested. Maybe I should rephrase that and say the bottom of my addiction instead of the height. But when it kind of led me down a path that I never expected. Mm-hmm. I become one of those people that was a drain on this society, the community. All the cops knew me by first name. Even if I wasn't doing anything wrong, they would still stop me because probable cause. Yeah, All you had to do was really look at me and you knew what I was about. Mm. And I was arrested for trafficking back in 2010, and that was, the last day that I had used any mind-altering substances. Yeah, and whenever I made it to jail and laid down on that mat in the floor, the sigh of relief come over me. After 15 years of addiction, it was over. It was done. And the running, the hiding, the scheming, and everything that goes along with addiction, And, and the best thing that my family did for me in that moment, nobody came to my rescue. Nobody come and bonded me out. Nobody, showed up to visit. Nobody put money on my books. They left me in there for a while to think about my actions. I actually was paying the consequences, facing them by myself. And slowly my family started coming around and visiting and stuff, but they let me sit in there for a while.
Had they bailed you out before?
Every time. I've been in and out of jail since I turned 18. From here, Mount Sterling, Clark County, all the way plumb to Prestonsburg. I had become a regular.
Yeah.
And getting back to what I was, being arrested for trafficking, and laying in there, and them, like I said, slowly coming around, but still, I remember whenever they set my bond at $25,000, and I was like, I got on the phone with my mom. I was like, call Granny, because my grandmother, bless her heart, she passed away several years ago, but she was always quick to bail me out of everything. And I called her, and I said, and I sat there about another hour, and I called back, and I was like, what's going on? I said, you're staying this time. She's not rescuing you again.
Yeah.
And that was when it kind of really set in. All right, let's go ahead and do this. I'm in for the long haul.
How long were you looking at?
2 different 12-year sentences.
Yeah.
One in Montgomery County, one in Powell County. So when I sat there for roughly, it was several months, and they had come and assessed me for rehab. And at this mindset, I wanted to make changes. I wanted to do something different. I just didn't know what it was. And I go up for the assessment. If we're being honest, it was just to get out of the cell.
Yeah.
I sat there, and she gave me the spiel about long-term treatment and all this and that. And she's like, well, before I get started with the assessment part, is there any questions for me? And I was like, yes. Do I get to go outside? Do I get to drink Ale-8's? Do I get to smoke cigarettes? And when she said yes, I was like, there's no need for anything else. Let's just go ahead and sign the paperwork. It sounded a whole lot better than going on to prison.
Yeah, I believe it. Yeah.
So we did the assessment, and I sat there for several more months, just twiddling my thumbs, watching people come in and out, going to rehab, messing up, coming back, and I'm like, here I sit. I just want one shot at something, And they called me up to the booking one day, and I walked through, and I walked past my belongings that I hadn't seen for several months, and I was like, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Wonder what that stuff's doing up here.
Yeah.
And they're like, your grandparents are on their way to get you. You've been approved and accepted to go to Morehead Inspiration Center.
Nice.
And I was like, what is that? And it's a 9 to 12 month program for men. I was like, 9 to 12 months.
So how many months had this been since you've been arrested at that point?
6.
6, okay. So you'd already, had you been sobered up, or were you,
Yeah, and one of the points in jail was anybody that's been there, you can get stuff in jail just as easy as out here.
Yeah.
And when somebody actually brought in some pills, and, they're offering them up for commissary, and I sit there and I weigh the options, and I decide to eat my commissary and not trade for pills. And I'm like, dang, maybe I do have some kind of control over this.
There you go, yeah.
Yeah. We are all stuck by choice. It's what we choose to do and the direction we want to move towards.
So, I've not asked anybody this question in close to 2 years on this show, but is it a choice or a disease?
Oh, it is definitely a disease. And we can get into the whole disease concept later if you want to.
All right, yeah, we might step back towards it, yeah, because it's interesting that you say that immediately you're in it by your choice, but it is a disease.
Yeah.
So,
So we do have a choice over that first one that we put in us. Mm-hmm. But then at that point is when the disease kicks in and takes over.
So, you're looking at Morehead Inspiration Center now.
And I go in there and first off, I knew nothing about recovery, AA, or anything until I go in there, and it's very hardcore, very structured, and I'm sitting there going through the intake process, and the guy looks at me and he's like, "Have you had enough?" "Had enough of what?" He's like, "Have you had enough of the pain and suffering? If not, why are we wasting our time? Go ahead and get your stuff and leave. The door's unlocked." And I thought, that's pretty crude and rude there, but it was the facts. Why waste the seat and the bed for somebody if you're not willing to stay and try? Because the next person might be dying waiting to get in there. And so I went ahead and went through the process, and not to bore you with all the details, but I sat and I smoked a lot of cigarettes. I drank a lot of Ale-8's, and I went outside every chance I could get. That was what I went for. Yeah. It wasn't there to get sober, stay sober. I was just, and the first recovery focus that I set on, and that is pretty well where they come in and lock down the facility. You're not allowed to leave. You're not allowed to go on visits. Nothing. You sit in the cafeteria and you write the big book or you read the big book.
Write and read the big book.
Yeah, the AA big book.
Yeah, okay.
Alcoholics Anonymous.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there and I got tired of having to ask to go to the bathroom, ask to go get something to drink. People were telling me when I had to go to bed, when I had to get up, and I had lived so long just doing what I wanted to do that I didn't like that structure. I didn't like all that. And I'm sitting there weighing my choices on whether to leave or stay. And it's a cold, dreary day in April, and I'm sitting there and I was like, well, if I leave, I'm going to have to walk because I don't have any so-called friends to call. My family's not going to come and get me, and then I'm like, well, what's the worst could happen? I'm here 9 to 12 months. Then I can go get high if I want to. I can do what I want. So I kind of made up my mind, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to take something away from it. I'm going to become honest with myself, open-minded, and willing to somebody else guiding me and directing me, because my best thinking got me there. So obviously I didn't know how to think either. And that was when things really turned around, and my eyes opened up. The program got easier. I started doing what was asked of me and what was expected, and lo and behold, stuff started sticking. I actually started applying myself. Things started turning around. And up to this point, my sister, which has never been an addict or an alcoholic, different spectrum there. She tried it and didn't like it, and I tried it and I loved it. Yeah. So, and my grandmother, they were my biggest supporters while in treatment, and and they kept saying, we're so proud of you. We can't wait. We're getting our grandson back. I'm getting my brother back. But through the changes I was making in treatment, that old person that they remembered prior to my addiction was gone. The world has a way of changing us, and so does our addiction. And lo and behold, 11 and a half months in treatment, I walked out of there. And with nothing more than a piece of paper for a certificate and a coin stating I completed it. There was no parade, there was no balloons, cake, It was time to put my big boy pants on and apply everything that I had learned there. And, when I come back to the community where my addiction kind of took off at and tried to kill me. Yeah, I get cold chills talking about it, and kind of choked up a little bit, and a lot of people were like, are you sure that's the best place for you to go back to? Honestly, if I can't go back there and stay sober and clean, where can I? Because addiction is everywhere. It is in every household. It is walking down the streets. It's literally everywhere. And, and I was very blessed with the changes that I had made going through the Inspiration Center, because they helped get me a job within a juvenile boys facility in Montgomery County. And I went to work there, not the most glamorous job, but it was the janitor and the cook. But it was honest money. I didn't have to worry about being robbed, somebody kicking my door in. I didn't have to worry about looking over my shoulder for the cops. And, but and that's where I really stumbled on the fact that I enjoyed helping others. I enjoyed giving back. Because if you can find gratitude with working in a juvenile boys facility where they respect nobody and are just unruly, you have an act for helping people. That's my view on it. And going from there, and the opportunity came that, I became one of the first addictions peer support in the state of Kentucky.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
wasn't, and I was able to actually kind of get that program started and implement that, and so I come in on the ground level on peer support. And it was different. Nobody knew what is peer support.
Yeah.
What is your job? What do you do? Are you here to take my job? No. I come in with lots of years of experience on addiction and a few years of recovery. I know what it was like. Peer support is able to reach addicts on a different level, because we've been there. We've ate out of dumpsters. We've begged for table scraps. And laid in the drunk tank, unfortunately, right beside many of the people we end up trying to help later on in life. And, and with that being said, that kind of led me down the path to where I'm at now.
You've probably seen people's acceptance of that job change over the years.
Yes, drastically. Like I said, in the beginning, everybody was kind of very closed-minded to it. Why are you here? What's going on? Now they see the importance of it. They're more, like you said, accepting and willing to work with us instead of work against us. It is very hard because the stigma that goes along with addiction, once you're an addict, you're always an addict. So you're an addict, but now you have a job working in here where I'm at, but now, hopefully, like through me and countless others, we're able to continue to open people's eyes and change their minds that, addicts can find a way out of addiction, and be productive members of society and still maintain their recovery.
All right, so let's take a look at what James is doing now and what job he's holding that is helping him give back to society, as he's saying. He is now at a place called Mountain Comprehensive Care, or simply Mountain Comp, and they do a lot. They do a lot in Powell County itself, and then across the whole region, really. It's a really big organization, and James is going to tell us a little bit more about Mountain Comp.
Mountain Comp does offer addiction services, peer support services, adult behavioral health, children behavioral health, crisis services. We have a crisis hotline that you can call 24/7 if you just need somebody to talk with. We offer developmental, intellectual disability services, and case management.
That's a big list.
Yes.
How long have they been in the area here?
Oh, you would ask me that question. I had that wrote down somewhere.
Yeah, that's all right.
We've been
long enough.
Yeah, I know at least 40 years.
Yeah.
Originally started at the home clinic in Prestonsburg, I believe, and they've outreached since then. Mountain Comp has 42 clinics in the state of Kentucky. We serve 55 counties and over 32,000 clients annually.
Yeah, that's quite a bit.
Yeah.
That's quite a bit. So it's an outpatient care.
Yep.
If you're doing stuff with like addiction services, does that go outpatient too?
It doesn't always have to.
Okay.
Yeah. That's obviously we do offer outpatient substance use services and intensive outpatient substance abuse services. But that's like you could come in for individualized treatment with a therapist and myself, and and if you need something more or something more is required of you from the court systems, drug court, whatever, that is where IOP comes into play, the intensive outpatient services. That is something that we have just implemented here in Powell County, and I'm super excited about that.
What is it like? Tell me about that.
It's the intensive outpatient program serves persons experiencing substance use disorder or co-occurring disorders. IOP utilizes a combination of services to address addiction, including individual and group counseling, education, groups, classes, case management, medication management, and social support opportunities. Yeah.
Okay.
IOP is designed for those who are in transition from the higher level of care provided in residential treatment or have been unsuccessful in maintaining stability with the lower level of care produced in outpatient services. It is guided by the matrix model. Our IOP uses a team approach to nurture recovery while inspiring hope in a supportive, caring environment.
So what is the matrix model? I've never heard of that before.
It is an evidence-based curriculum that is approved from the Hazelden Foundation. It covers all different facets of your addiction, your behaviors, that type of thing, to help address each and everything.
Okay. So kind of like the doing 12 steps.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Same concept.
Kind of
thing. Yeah. Okay. Cool. And this organization does not do religious-based care, as so many other places that we've heard from on this show and places all across Kentucky do religious-focused stuff. This one does not. So, knowing James to be a person of faith, I wanted his opinion on that.
I give all the glory to God, my higher power, because I know I would not be where I'm at if it wasn't for Him. Because, He never turned His back on me. I turned my back on Him. And I feel like he was sitting back waiting on me to hit my rock bottom, to reach down and guide me in the direction He wanted me to go in. And now to get back to the question you asked, honestly, I feel like, when you're first trying to figure out what's going on, figuring out how to get out of your addiction, to some people, religion can be very overwhelming and it kind of seems forceful. I hope I don't offend anybody by saying that, but like personally for me, if I'd went into treatment and they were saying, here's a Bible, we're going to church, you're going to do this, you're going to pray, I probably would have walked out of there, because I wasn't at that point in my recovery or sobriety.
Lighting cigarettes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, if they'd have threw that in after prayer, I might have been down for it.
It'd be a crazy communion to take at church.
I like that though.
Yeah.
But all jokes aside, it is a spiritual program. AA, NA, they're spiritual programs, and we do. Those programs do talk about higher power, God, choosing your own conception. Figuring out what works best for you, and you have to learn how to get with the spiritual side and in hopes that it guides and you decide to kind of steer towards the religion side, You know, and that's how I always say, you know, God might have led me to recovery, but recovery helped me to find God.
Now, what we're not ever trying to say on this show is what works for everybody, but we are saying pretty confidently that this is what worked for James. And this is the job of a peer support specialist, and it's the job of a lot of people working in recovery today to help people find exactly what it is that's going to help them live a healthier life and a safer life. Any closing words for anybody out there?
Don't give up hope. You know, don't give up on your loved ones. Every person in addiction is somebody's father, brother, son, grandson, and just having the support of one person can make all the difference on whether they actually continue to try to climb out of addiction or not. You know, so many times I see so many people beat down and they're like, why even try? Nobody cares anymore. You know, nobody will even talk to me. Yeah. So don't give up on your loved ones. There's always a way out, because, you know, if I'm able to find a way out after 15 years of addiction, and, you know, and my addiction is still a daily battle. You know, I still have to get up and maintain and do, you know, the prayer, meditation, and work through the first 3 steps, you know, that continued daily maintenance. You know, but if I can find a way out, anybody can.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for coming today. Yeah, it's
that would have been a mic drop moment, but
no, it will be. That's when you start fading in the closing song, and it'll work well. Well, thank you all for tuning in today for this episode of The Local Lens. A big thanks to James Oney for coming on the show. Man, this guy, he's super cool. His voice is just like Sturgill Simpson's almost, except maybe a little sweeter even. So yeah, thanks to James to coming on the show and being brave enough to share his story. And big shout out to everybody else who's doing the same kind of work that James is doing, because that stuff is incredible. You guys are great. Please keep it up. Also, a big thanks to the Powell County Health Department and Kentucky Rio for helping us broadcast the show. And also, big thanks to WSKV for playing the show on the air every week for us. We really appreciate all the help. And people, if you're listening, then let us know. Find us online and tell your friends about us. And thank you for tuning in again. All right, well, that's all we've got for you. I'm your host, Nate Brooks. You've been listening to The Local Lens. These are our people, using our voices, telling our stories, because no one sees it like we do.